Hi, I'm Heidi with Go Stamping. Welcome to my craft corner. Today I have a fun watercolor technique to share with you, and you know that I love watercolor techniques. We're going to be using a brand new stamp set that is perfect for making watercolor backgrounds. Before I get started, if you have any questions about stamping, card making, paper crafting, I would love to answer those questions for you. Just leave me a comment or send me an email and let me know how I can help. If you want any of the dimensions for today's projects, or you want to order supplies and see the supply list, make sure that you hop on over to my website. You're going to find the link to my website in the description to this video. I also would love to hang out with you more and would love for you to come on over and join my Facebook group, because that is where all the fun happens. Just like everything else, the link to my Facebook group is in the description to this video. All right. Oni go, let's get stamping. Let's take a look at the stamps that we're going to be using today. So the first set is the Watercolor Shapes stamp set, and this is going to be kind of the star of the show today. Well, maybe not the star, the background star. But this is just a really cool set of shapes that is going to be awesome backgrounds for all sorts of images. And I want to share some fun watercolor techniques that we can do with that. So that is going to be our main stamp set today. And then the other stamp set that we have is the Quiet Meadow stamp set. And you've seen me use this before. Just some really nice line art design there. And we're going to be using the dies that go with that too. Also, we are going to be using the hand-penned designer series paper. Let me make sure I get the papers out that I need here. So here it is. This matches the hand-penned stamp set. I think that's what it's called. Not sure, but you can see that it has all these different fun florals, and then you flip them over, and of course you get patterns on the other side in these really soft pastels, kind of the subtle colors, right? So this is what we're going to be using for the background. Let me grab the right sheet that I want. All right, and we'll set these aside, and let's get out our Watercolor Shapes stamps. So if you have gotten a new set of photopolymer stamps, you may have noticed that it's no longer printed. The stamp image isn't printed on the piece of plastic. It is now actually printed on the back of your stamp case. So what I have done, you can see that those are printed under there. I took my stamps off and I put them on the spots where they go on the back of the case. But then I don't know, this is a new thing, and I'm kind of curious of how it's going to work. I'm a little concerned. I don't know about you. I have a fuzzy friend. I have a cat who likes to come and visit my stamp area. And my stamps just get, as hard as I try to keep cat fur off of them, but even not just cat fur, they get, dusty. You stamp them a bunch, they kind of get less sticky, and you can wash them, right? And bring some of that sticky back. But the more loved stamps just, are going to be a little bit less sticky. And I just kind of worry, I like to keep them as clean as possible. So in order to do that, I've gone ahead and I've kept both pieces, but I'm going to try using the heavier, thicker background, and I'm just going to keep that on the back of those stamps. So I'll have the stamp stuck to the case, which is the intended way that it's supposed to go. But then I'm just going to take this piece of plastic and I'm going to put it over top, just to help keep those, covered up and keep them cleaner. So that's kind of my thought. We'll see how it goes. This is a totally new thing. It's exciting because the images are right there on the stamp set, which is fun. And I know a lot of people like to take off the plastic. They like to have that whole sheet of plastic off and not deal with it. So it works great for that too. All right, I've stuck a couple of these on here. Oh, I wanted to grab one other one. I almost forgot. All right, I'm gonna grab the big giant circle as well. And I'm actually gonna start with this big giant circle. So I have a piece of basic white cardstock and my Highland Heather ink pad. And I'm just gonna stamp this up. I want you to see what this looks like when we just ink it up and stamp it. So we'll just ink that up, and I'm gonna stamp that right there, give it some nice even pressure. And you can see that it gives you this kind of mottled look to it, right? It's not very solid. That is actually how the stamp is supposed to be. So that is not a flaw. But I want to try doing something just a little bit different. So I have a piece of heavy white cardstock, and you'll see why in just a minute. And I have a whole bunch of different colors. So I'm going to start with Pool Party Mint Macaron. Actually, you know what? We're going to put the mint on the bottom. Mint Macaron Pool Party. Highland Heather. So I'm putting these in rainbow order. Highland Heather. And then Blushing Bride and Pale Papaya. So there we have kind of a little rainbow. And we are going to stamp these on this piece of Whisper White. I'm going to stamp the smaller rectangle. This is not the smallest rectangle, but I'm going to stamp this one instead. And I'm going to grab my Stampin' Mist right here. The Stampin' Spritzer, I should say. I'm just going to ink this up. I'm going to take my Stampin' Spritz, and I am just going to give that about 3 spritzes. Oops, I think I got one too many spritzes maybe. All right, I'm just going to start by stamping that up on the top. This was a little bit easier when I wasn't trying to keep it in the camera, right? So I think I was holding it further away, so 3 was the right number. I think I'll try 2 on the next one. We'll see if it gives us enough run. I'm just going to clean that off. We'll put away the Pale Papaya. And then we're going to grab the Blushing Bride. And we'll ink it up again. We're going to do exactly the same thing with each color. So there's that. Give this a couple spritzes. And now I'm going to overlap just a tiny bit here because I kind of want them to smoosh together. There we go. You can see how those kind of start to run. Now we'll move on to the Highland Heather. And we'll do the same thing. Now I am just using the thick white cardstock. You could use watercolor paper for this and it'd probably work better. But you know me, half the time I never pull out my watercolor paper. So, all right, there's the Highland Heather. We're gonna do the same thing, just kind of overlap just a little bit. There we go. And next up is the Pool Party. Ink that up in the Pool Party. I think I never use the watercolor paper because I'm always deciding, oh, I'm gonna just do it on regular paper first before I try the watercolor paper. And I just don't pull out the watercolor paper. All right, there's our Pool Party. And again, we're overlapping just a little bit at the bottom. So there's the Pool Party, and then one more with the Mint Macaron. This up in the Mint Macaron. And we'll give this a spritz. There we go. And then once again, just overlapping just a little bit at the bottom. And there you can see we have all 5 colors and they kind of blend. That Mint Macaron is surprisingly close to the Pool Party ink, but isn't that fun how they just kind of all blend together? Then what you want to do is you want to set this aside and let it dry. Give it some chance to dry. Luckily for you, hey, look, I have a piece that I have already done. Oh, nope, this is the piece I wanted to show you. This is the piece that I did without using any water. And then here is the one where I used water. Isn't that a fun, just really watercolory technique that it gives it right there. So I really like that. So now we'll go back over and I'm gonna pull in my Quiet Meadow stamps. And of course I already put a stamp on I only have one large block. So this is, I think it's an E block. Yeah, this is an E block. It's nice and big, but But I really don't have that many stamps that need an E-block. And so I only have one of these. So we're just gonna kind of fake it right there. I'm gonna leave that stamp on there. I should be called like the lazy stamper because I'm pretty sure that's what I am. And I'm just gonna use my jet black Memento ink. You could use your StazOn for this. That would definitely work as well. We're not doing anything that would call for Memento over StazOn. And if this were still a little bit wet, you might want to stick with a StazOn just in case it runs a little bit. But it's perfectly dry, so I'm not going to worry about it. Now I'm just going to stamp that right on there. Oh, isn't that pretty? So pretty, super simple. And I don't need to color it because it's already colored, right? No need for coloring. Then I gotta wash this off because I do need to use that other block. All right. So that is what that looks like. We'll put this away. And I will show you in just a few minutes what this looks like when it's put together in a card. But this isn't actually the card that I want to finish making. This was just one of the ways I wanted to show you to use these stamps. So now let's look at another way. Set those aside. Let me grab my paper again. Oh, it's got all wet. Well, we'll grab another one. It's fine. All right, so here I have another piece of thick Whisper White cardstock. And I have the large rectangle. So now I'm going to grab 3 colors. For this one, I am going to use the Daffodil Delight, Pale Papaya, and Blushing Bride. Sorry, they're upside down, so you're getting the French side. So Blushing Bride, Pale Papaya, and Daffodil Delight. And we're going to start with the Daffodil Delight. Well, I'm always like, I don't know which direction I want to do this. I think I'm going to start with the Daffodil Delight. I'm going to stamp this just in the top half, like that. Then I'm going to come in with my Pale Papaya, and I'm going to stamp that all along the bottom. So there's 3 colors, so you always want to grab the darkest one for the bottom, which in this case is going to be the Blushing Bride. So we'll grab the Blushing Bride, and this one is just going to go on this edge right here. So we got 3 colors. Now, once again, I'm going to take my Stampin' Spritzer and just give that a nice spritz. So it's pretty wet and runny. I don't know if you can see how runny that is, but it is pretty runny. And then what I'm going to do is just stamp that down. And look what happens. Oh, it's so pretty. They all smush together, the colors. I just love the way, I love watercolor. I love the way that it smushes together. So once again, you want to set this aside and let it dry. And let me pull in what that looks like. So here's the piece that I already let dry. Isn't that sweet? And then what I'm going to do is I have a die. This is from the die set, and I cut this out with black. We're going to use that. Now I just trimmed this down and then measured it afterwards. So you might want to make it a little bit less of a goofy measurement, but this is 3 3/8 by 2 inches. And I'm going to use a 3/16 inch border. By that, I mean that it's 3/16 inch bigger on each side. So this is actually 3 9/16 by 2 3/16. And this is just going to go right on here. Grab my liquid adhesive. And we'll just glue this right here. It's a little bit more glue than I want, so we'll just spread it out. All right. And if it gets a little warped, by putting the glue on there and sticking it down, it kind of sticks. It unwarps it, it sticks it to the paper. There we go. Now I have a piece of that hand-penned designer series paper. Oh, isn't that pretty? I love the back too. Look at that polka dot. Oh, the Pale Papaya polka dot is so sweet. Love it. All right, getting too much glue. I have a problem with getting too much glue. Sometimes I'll take a sponge when I get too much glue and just sponge it off a little bit. And sometimes I just take the tip of my glue applicator and squish it out, kind of spread it around. All right, so I'm just putting this on a piece of black. This designer series paper, the pattern paper, is 3 by 4 3/4. And then the black is 3 3/16 by 4 7/16, or 4 15/16. So yeah, so it's again 3/16 inch bigger. And remember, when you go to do the 3/16 inch, all you have to do is think in quarters and then move it over, you know, pull it back one little tiny 16th inch tick mark, right? Super easy. Okay, I want to grab my pale papaya in white ribbon. This is just a really nice, I don't know. It's not linen. I don't know what I want to say. Woven? I guess, yeah, it's called woven ribbon. There. Should pay attention to what the name is. Might actually know what to call the ribbon then. All right, I'm just going to tie this in a knot on the front here. Tie over here. And give it a good tug, because we're just doing a knot. So I'm going to grab my ribbon shears. I like to keep separate ribbon shears. I love our paper snips, but I like to keep my separate ribbon shears. All right. Some people keep a second pair of paper snips for ribbon. I suppose I could do that. There we go. We'll just trim that off. Very nice. One other thing I want to do is I want to stamp a sentiment. So I'm going to grab a piece of 1/2 inch basic white cardstock. I'm going to use the You're Too Kind sentiment. And I didn't get a block out for this, of course. So we'll just grab a block and stick that on. I keep all these 1/2 inch. This is what you get when you trim down pieces of basic white cardstock for the interior of your cards. You end up with strips of 1/2 inch cardstock, and I just keep them in a bin on my desk, and they're perfect for doing little sentiments like this. So there's my sentiment, and I will just snip this off. Again, I'm not measuring this. Y'all can measure this if you want to, but all I do is I just take my paper snips and just kind of cut it. I just cut it how I want. I really, I don't measure things always. I used to not even measure my layers. I would just put it on and just cut it. But I know that you guys like to know the measurements, so I try to do more measuring for y'all. All right, I want to layer this on some pale papaya. So I have a piece of pale papaya that is 8.5 by 5.5, and I have folded it in half on the 4 1/4 line. Then I have another piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I am going to emboss this with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. Right, this is a 3D embossing folder, and I just want to pop this in here. I'm going to put this on my Big Shot platform, or you can put it on your Stampin' Emboss platform. And if you have the Stampin' Emboss platform, you want to use the gray special plate, or if you have the old blue plate, you can use the blue plate. Remember, I call this the blue plate special, because you either want the blue plate or the special plate for your 3D embossing folders. All right, I ran that through my embossing machine, and here is my embossed piece. Let's go ahead and put this whole thing together now that we have all the pieces. So I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive. Try not to get too much. And we're just going to adhere this right to the front of my card. So this just goes right on here. Super quick and easy. I think my measurements were off, but that's fine. And then I have this piece. I want to use some Stampin' Dimensionals for this, and I forgot to grab them. So let me grab those. Oh, those are the minis. We don't want the minis on this one. Just the regulars. So we'll put some Stampin' Dimensionals on here. I'm going to try to put plenty on so that it's well supported. And I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to kind of just pull these off. Keeps them all kind of stuck together. I find that they do a better job of making it to the trash this way, not winding up on my floor and stuck to my cat. Does that happen to anybody else? Do your Stampin' Dimensionals little backs get stuck to your cats or your feet or your kids? Yeah, me too. Okay, so let's, oh, you know what? I did not adhere my die cut. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here. It's a very small die cut. This is a time where I really should pull out my sponge and just sponge this up here. Here we go. So I have a teeny tiny, I have a bit of sponge and it is just on a little binder clip and there's cat fur stuck to it. I told you, the cat. And then I just sponge that and that just kind of sponges off any extra and that way it doesn't smoosh out the sides. So then this, we'll just take this and put this right on here. And then of course I'll take my snips and just snip that off across the bottom. And then use my Stampin' Dimensionals again, because I love dimensionals. Now I do want to be careful because this is going to go off the edge. So I'm actually not going to put those dimensionals all the way to the edge because I want to try to keep it even across the front, right? So, because there's already dimensionals here, if I get dimensionals out on this side, it's going to make it not flat. It's going to make it, I don't know what to say, uneven. All right, let's pull off these backs. And now I'll just take this and pop this right on the front, just like this. Oh, look out. And I got the sample that I have with this one actually uses a different die cut. So you have to see what that looks like. All right. And then one more, a couple more dimensionals. This card has a lot of dimension. It's a lot of dimension. It's a poofy card, I guess we'll say. All right. Now again, I left a little bit of extra space there because it's going to go over this ribbon just a little bit. So I wanted to kind of leave some space for the ribbon. All right. There we go. And there is our sentiment. Isn't that a fun card? So fun. So easy to do that fun watercolor technique. Let me show you what the sample looks like that I had made beforehand with that same one, except I used a different die. So I don't know, which one do you like better? I can't decide. Let me show you a couple other ones because I made samples using those other two techniques, or I should say the one other technique and then the one with no water spritzed on it at all. So here is the one that I made with those stacked colors. This is put together exactly the same. The only changes I made is that now it's on Blushing Bride and the twine is the Blushing Bride twine. This is in the Snail Mail combo pack that is Blushing Bride and white. And remember, if you need any of the supplies to make these cards, I got you covered, no problem. You're gonna find links to my blog page, to my website page, where there is the complete supply list. You click that supply list and it is so easy to order any of these supplies you need because they're all there for you. Just check off what you need and then click checkout. Simple and easy. So, and then the third is with that stamp where I just stamped it straight with no water and then I put a die on there too. And this one is on Highland Heather. And then I use some of the black baker's twine. And this is in the new, do I have it here? Yeah, this is in the new Baker's Twine Essentials pack. One of them is missing. Oh, you know what I did? Ha ha ha. I stuck it in the wrong bag. So here we go. This comes with 5 different twines. And there is white, Sahara sand, I think, vanilla, crumb cake, and black. It comes with more white and crumb cake, like twice as much white and crumb cake as it does vanilla, Sahara sand, and black. So there's lots of twine in there. Really great deal. Everything you need. All right. Here are our samples for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Wasn't that a fabulous watercolor technique? I love that new Watercolor Shapes stamp set. It is absolutely fabulous. If you liked today's video, make sure that you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends, and then come on back and see me for more tips, techniques, and inspiration. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.